Hi, my name is Isabella and today I'm going to show you how to crochet these mittens. Alright, let's get started. The very first step is to measure from the top of the thumb to the wrist. You can of course either measure your own hands or someone else depending on who you're making the mittens for. And the next step is to crochet a chain that is the same length as that measurement. Now that we know how long our chain must be, we can move on to crocheting. So start by making a slip knot like this and make it a bit tighter. Then use your hook to grab the yarn and pull it through the loop like this. I'll show you one more time. Just grab the yarn and pull it through the loop over and over until you have a chain that is the same length as your measurement. Okay, so now my chain is the same length as my measurement and I can move on to the next step. So I'm chaining one and then turning my project, and now we're going to crochet single crochets all the way from this end to the other. So into every single hole we're making one single crochet like this. To make the single crochet, you go into the hole, grab the yarn with your hook and pull it through. Now that you have two loops on your hook, you grab the yarn once again and pull through both of them. So continue doing this all the way to the other side. Okay, so now I have crocheted all the way to the other side and we can move on to the next step. Chain one, turn the project, and now we're going to make the ribbing at the bottom. So in order to make the ribbing, we're going to do single crochets into the back loop only. So we're making the same stitch as we just did, but instead of going into the whole stitch, we're only going into the back loop. So I'm doing this stitch into the first 8, and that is the same length as my wrist. So measure from the bottom of the mitten and until where your hand meets the wrist, and make the ribbing as long as that part. So now we're done with the back loop only, and I am making single crochets all the way up to the top. And once we get to the top, the last one, we're going to increase in order to create a rounded edge for the thumb. Now I have the last one where I'm going to increase. So I am creating 2 single crochets into this last one, and then I chain one so that I can turn the project and move on to the next step. And we're going to increase here as well. So into the first one, we are adding 2 single crochets. So one more time into the first one, like this. And now we're going to do single crochets all the way down. And once we get to the last 8 ones, we are doing back loop only. So now I have 8 left, and I'm going to crochet in the back loop only once again. And I am adding one so that we can turn the project. Now I am going to start again, back loop only. For the first 8, we're always going to crochet back loop only for the first 8, both on the way down and on the way up. All right, so I have the last 2 here, and in order to decrease, I am going into the second last stitch, pulling up a loop, and then I go into the last one and pull up a loop so that I have 3 hook loops on my hook. I then grab the yarn and pull through all of them like this. I add one, turn project, and I'm going to decrease once again. So into the first one, pull up a loop, into the second one, pull up a loop, then I go through all of them with my yarn like that. And now we're going to crochet single crochets all the way down, and don't forget about the ribbing at the bottom. So single crochets all the way down. Add one and turn the project. And now we are going to just measure one extra time so that the size of our mitten is right. And I think this looks good. As you can see, my thumb fits, and I have some extra room on the sides, so that we are able to sew the mitten together and I can still move my thumb. And now we're going to move on to the next part. Now we're going to add the piece that covers the rest of my hand. So we will be doing single crochets all the way up to this part where the thumb and the rest of my hand meets. I'm going to crochet until I have 8 left on the top. Okay, so I have 8 left here at the top, and now I'm going to add this next part, and we do this by going into this hole that I just made a single crochet into. So I'm going into that hole once again, pull up a loop, and I'm adding a single crochet here, and it's important that this one is quite tight, otherwise we will get a big hole here where the 2 ends meet, where the 2 parts meet. And now I'm adding this next part by creating another chain. So I'm going into this hole, pulling up a loop like this. I then grab the yarn and go through both of them. So into the hole, so that I have 3 loops on my hook. I grab the yarn, pull through, grab the yarn and pull through. I'm adding one more just so that I have some extra room. Okay, so now we are going to crochet all the way down from this end to this. And here it can be a bit tricky to see what side we're going down into, but basically it's the side where the crochets look more defined. So the back is basically not as defined as the right side. So make sure that you are going into the right side. I'm adding single crochets. And now we have reached a point where these two parts meet. So here I am adding a decrease. So I'm decreasing where these two parts meet. So I go into this one, I pull up a loop, I go into the next one and pull up a loop. Now I grab the yarn and pull through all 3 of them. The reason I am adding a decrease here is to make it a bit more stable, and also I don't want any big holes here. If I don't add the decrease here, it tends to leave a bit of a hole. So in order to fix that, I'm adding a decrease. Let's continue. I'm adding one, turning the project, and now we're going to single crochet all the way back up, and here we're going to increase. And when we increase, we are starting to create the rounded effect here on the top. All right, so I'm doing single crochets all the way back up. I am adding the ribbing at the bottom by crocheting into the back loop only. All right, so into this very last one at the top, I'm going to increase by adding 1 extra single crochet into the last hole, like this. I chain 1, turn the project, and increase at this side as well. So into the first one, I'm adding 1 extra single crochet. And then I'm going to single crochet all the way down, and I'll do the ribbing at the bottom. So I am turning the project and I am crocheting the ribbing at the bottom, like this. And then I'm going to crochet all the way back up. But now for the next 5 rows, I'm not going to change anything. So I will be doing single crochets all the way back up, and I am not increasing or decreasing. I'm just doing 5 rows exactly the same way. And of course, I'm doing the ribbing at the bottom with single crochets as I've shown you. So 5 rows without changing anything. I have crocheted 5 rows without increasing or decreasing. And now I'm going to chain 1, turn project. For the next 3 rows, I'm going to decrease at the top. So into the first stitch, I am going to pick up a loop. I go down to the next one and pick up a loop. I then grab the yarn with my hook and go through all 3. I am going to crochet all the way down and do the ribbing at the bottom. So for 3 rows, I'm going to decrease at the top. Okay, I have done 3 rows where I have decreased and created this rounded edge. So now we are going to crochet all the way back up again and start increasing at the top. I have chained 1, so I'm turning my project and doing the ribbing at the bottom. And when I'm done with the ribbing, I am doing single crochets all the way back. And when I am at the top, I will be increasing so that we create the next part that we're going to flip over at the end. So I am at the top, I have 1 left, and here I am going to increase. So I'm making 2 single crochets into the very last stitch, like so. Chain 1, turn project, and increase once again in the very first, like this. So 1 more in the very first one. And then I am going to single crochet all the way back down and all the way back up and increase 1 last time. Okay, so now we're going to do 5 rows without increasing or decreasing, just as we did on this other part. So 5 rows without increasing or decreasing. We're just doing the ribbing at the bottom and the single crochets all the way. The next step is to create the ribbing at the bottom, then do 11 single crochets. Once you have done the 11 single crochets, we're going to add the part for the thumb. I have chained 1, I'm turning the project, I am doing the ribbing at the bottom, and from here we are doing 11 single crochets. That's 11. Now we're going to add the thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we will be adding 7 crochets from here. We are doing this by going into the crochet we just did, picking up the yarn. Now I'm going into this part again, picking up the yarn, pull through. Okay, so I have made this extra chain of 7, and now I'm going to chain 1 and crochet down into the back of this and go till this point. And now that I have the 2 left here, I'm going to decrease. So I am going into the second last one and picking up a loop. I go into the last one and pick up the loop. I pick up the yarn and go through all 3. Chain 1, turn project, then decrease once again. Single crochet all the way back to this point where we're going to increase at the top. Okay, so I have the last one here at the top. I'm going to crochet 2 single crochets into this very last one, like so. Then chain 1, turn project, and increase at the top. So 2 single crochets at the top. Then I'm going to single crochet all the way back here and decrease at the into the 2 last ones. Okay, so I have decreased, chained 1, I'm turning the project, single crochets all the way to the other end of the thumb, and here I'm going to decrease as well. So I have decreased, I've turned the project, now I'm going to decrease once again, like so, and do single crochets all the way to the other end. All right, so I am decreasing into the last 2 ones here. And then chaining 1, turning project, decreasing once again. And last but not least, I'm making single crochets all the way back to the other end, where I will make a decrease and then we're done. Once you've made the last decrease, just cut the yarn off and make a knot. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is the only step that is different depending on which mitten you're making. So for the left mitten, you're folding it like this, folding the thumb and then adding the other part on top, like so. And you're sewing it together from edge to edge, like this. And for the other mitten, the right mitten, we're flipping it all over like this, and then fold this part over, then fold the thumb and match with the other part of the thumb and sew it all together just like the other one from edge to edge. Okay, so here I'm showing you how I sew together the right mitten. I am folding it just like I showed you a second ago, thumb to thumb and then edge to edge. And I'm going to sew it from the bottom, from the ribbed part and up. And I'm making a super simple stitch. These are called blanket stitches, and I'm sewing one stitch into each hole. So I am matching both sides of my project and then sewing into each hole from the bottom up to the top. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed crocheting these mittens together with me. Have a good one. Bye!